All right, and welcome back to another session. You have to excuse, I think there's a bit of an echo, but we will just roll with it. So, today we want to talk about something that was brought up recently, and Dad want to be able to ask you this question, get a little clarification, and that is, does our diet affect our stress levels? We've talked about before in the past how when we're stressed, that can affect our diet. But can what we're actually eating will that affect our stress levels? Does that affect our mental health? And so that's the question I want to pose to you today, Dad. And if you can provide some insight on that. And you are currently still muted.
Yeah, can you hear me there?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, definitely. The place where dwells our mind, you know, for the most part, no, it is in the brain, and of course there is extension, which are nerves that are extended throughout the entire body, and these nerves they also part of the brain. Okay, of course it's just cables, no, and other neurons that are not necessarily encased inside the brain. But these cells, they need nutrients. So going back to the mind, it is memories of the past, uh, some other cognitive functions to project in the future, and also the function of being present, along with all these emotions and everything. So we're talking about chemicals, literally. See, chemicals are used to save uh, information. Chemicals are used and they are converted into electrical charges, in waves. All these things are what the brain does. And of course, since the mind is there through these memories, and it's not really in one place because all this information goes, constantly, moving along, with the new experiences and our new thoughts, the physiological activity that is also sending signals to the brain. And of course, that's the same place where memories are. That's where our mind is pretty much. So these cells, they need nutrients. So because all these chemical compositions from neurotransmitters to hormones that are necessary to function our brain and other chemicals. So they are actually made by genes, not genes literally, but they're made because the genes are being expressed. So a protein can be made, and the proteins to be made it needs these nutrients that we eat. So if it's any lack of anything, it will affect our mind, you know,
Mm.
because it will affect our brain. So let's say mental health, it has to do with memories. Okay, memories are, if I want to work, I need to know, if I'm working in an office, my brain has to have the capability, my mind, to retrieve information. No, and that requires movement. Movement is done through proteins, proteins that are made for the same brain, and those proteins are made because we consume, uh, amino acids that come from some proteins from the outside, or carbs that are needed for energy, or some good fats that are needed to produce some of the chemicals and hormones. So yeah, we are lacking to that nutrients. It will affect a bad nutrition will affect mental health.
Mm.
So and that's pretty much a straightforward answer. No, no. Now, if we need to know what to eat and one what it would help the brain, maybe that's another thing we can discuss today, if it's okay with you. What it
Yeah.
would help.
Yeah. Let's get into
Okay.
that a little bit.
Okay. Well, one thing is important to know. We live through a cycle, you know, day and night, and this cycle during the day, allows the production of certain hormones, enzymes, specific proteins that sustain life. This is like a clock, Like when you go to work and you have to leave a certain time, You have to be in the road at a certain time, and you have to be at your office. And then you finish your work, and your schedule goes according to what priority is, etc., etc. So the body is the same. So there are the production of certain chemicals at a certain time of the day, the inhibition of the production of certain chemicals at a certain time of the day. So, and then during the night time, there is also certain activity while you're sleeping. So literally, we live in a clock. Our cells, about 70 trillion cells, they have embedded this this clock, no, this metabolic clock, every cell. And there is a coordination of activity where certain types of the body make these components while it's inhibiting another ones. So, and then another part of the body, inhibit some components while it's activating some other ones, and it's this and orchestrated, and it's like playing music, a symphony where all this activity goes. And this is important to understand. So, eating and times of eating, it is important. So our body, it uses a lot of energy, and our brain uses tremendous a lot of energy. As a matter of fact, we use in our brain, which is only about probably less than 3 pounds, compared with how much you weigh, Ulysses?
Like 160, 170, somewhere around there.
170 pounds, 3 pounds, which is probably only about what we call them 2% of your weight is in the brain. But it consumes, about 25% of the energy, of the entire body. So it's going to be a lot of energy needed. And the other thing, which is interesting, and this is a little important to know, is the brain does 70% of the metabolism is in the brain. And what that means, okay, metabolism is activity. See, energy consumption is calories, that can be coming from glucose or good fats or some other sources. So 25%, only 3 pounds of weight, which is 2% of your body weight, consume 25% of energy. And on the other hand, the metabolic rate is higher in the brain. So it's a lot of more work in the brain in these 3 pounds than there is in the rest of the body. So, and that's amazing. So the brain has to be efficient in using energy. So that's the reason why memory takes place. That's the reason why, there is information that it is embedded through our connections and through chemicals. So the brain, the cells in the brain, they kind of release themselves from having to be activating and using a lot of more energy. When at the same time they do produce a lot of metabolic activity. So anyway, so hopefully this is clear and not confusing. But there is more things going here than there is in my heart. Okay, then there is in my heart and my liver and my pancreas and my skin and my bones combined. Okay, more things are happening in the way how, making these chemicals, releasing these chemicals, inhibiting these chemicals, and it's happening in the brain. So efficiency is one of the things that the brain has. So that efficiency, it requires that the body, okay, it is receiving, the energy and the nutrient necessary. So going back to this cycle, the times to eat is important because this is the clock, So it's important that we eat on the same time or close around the same time. So the suggestions from research is to eat 3 main meals, and there is 2 snacks during the day. So, and of course, they have to be nutrition. We're going to talk about that briefly. The other part is not to eat late. We need some fasting period every day. So we eat dinner, let's say about 6, so we don't eat until the next day, or 6:30, maybe 7 for some people. But so it's important that we don't skip meals. because this metabolic clock, it depends upon this behavior. So if we skip a meal, skip meals, or we don't eat, or we eat too late, okay, that kind of behavior will affect the clock. It's like, let's say you have a meeting with an important person, okay, but you have other things during the day to do that are very important too, and that person becomes late. So what's going to happen with the rest of your schedule?
It's going to be thrown off.
It's going to turn off. So, but these other things are important too. Doesn't mean that you're not going to do the other things. You're still going to do the other things, but now the price is too high, okay? Because you're going to wait for the person that's important to have in a meeting, which is late for about an hour, okay? And then you're going to still be responsible to do the other things. So you're going to do your thing, but it's going to maybe be a sacrifice. Maybe you're going to miss your little girl's birthday, or you're going to miss eating on time because you're going to skip a meal. No, because you don't have time. You got to get through all these things on the day because tomorrow's another day, and you got to turn these reports, etc., etc. So anyways, so that's what happened with the body. The body won't stop doing what it's supposed to do, but when we are not eating on time, so things are going to be thrown off the road, and the body will try to kind of catch up with everything. The price is too high. Okay? The price is inflammation, okay, which is the response to any physiological stress. Because if I'm not eating, it's going to be a physiological stress, okay, because it's completely off the agenda. This was not part because we eat at this time, and after we eat, this is the body saying, we make these chemicals and these chemicals and these chemicals, and now, geez, this guy is not eating. So now we have to make this anyway. What we do? No. So now the body has to kind of rush into trying to compensate. So this compensation, it will turn the stress mechanism, which is something that is physiological. You don't feel it, okay? It's not like a sensation of I'm mental stress. So, but this includes hormones of stress, and there's going to be inflammation because of the rush to kind of compensate. So as the body and the cells are trying to really put everything in balance, we're going to have a byproduct, which is the inflammatory component, which is eventually will affect. And of course, this is something that will affect the brain because what you're throwing into your body, whether you're doing it or not, okay, it's going to be in the blood or it won't be in the blood. And then these processes are trying to compensate. It will kind of affect the brain too. So that's one thing. Time, eating on time, eat 3 main meals, okay, don't skip meals. And don't eat late. And why we don't eat late? Because at nighttime, when we're sleeping, okay, the body is doing so much work. One of those things it's doing is dismantling cells that have died the day before because our body is dying constantly. Cells die. Some of the components of the old cell is no longer part of your body. It has to be removed. And there's a process that it occurs mostly at night when you're sleeping. In that detoxification process, it won't start until when the things you eat is being absorbed through the intestine, because it's intestine and absorption of these nutrients takes priority over detoxification. So can't leave the food in the stomach, no, for a few hours until you detoxify. Okay, you can't leave the food in the intestines until you can do that, because that can be very detrimental, can be damaging, can be decomposition of components. So the digestion is priority. So, and detoxification comes next. So if I'm eating late, let's say I'm eating at 10 o'clock, so, and I have a main meal at 9 or 10, it takes anywhere between 4 to 6 hours to absorb the nutrients from the moment that you start, masticating until when it's inside the blood. So it depends on what you eat too. No? If it's a Coke, it'll be so quick that your sugar level goes up. So, but if it's any normal meal, eating late, it's a no-no. Yeah. So what happened? You have this clock that says we have to detoxificate this, and it happens when you're sleeping. It takes about 4 or 5 hours when you're sleeping. Okay, sometimes 6, depends on what is going on in your body. If you are overweight and it's obesity and it's some other sickness, there's a lot of more death of cells, more replacement of cells. So it's going to be a longer time to detoxificating through the night. So now, as I say, the digestion is priority, but of course detox is critical. So what happened? There's a priority digesting. I eat at 9 p.m. So now the detox there's a break, okay, until let's say it's 2 in the morning, okay, or 3 in the morning. I'm sleeping, I don't feel it, but my intestines are doing the work at trying to bring those meals that I eat, okay, break it down and bring it inside the bloodstream. So what is happening? Again, this metabolic clock, okay, is being thrown up. So the break's been put into because digestion is priority, detox is whole. I'm sleeping, I ate, let's say, at 9, it's 1 in the morning or 2, I'm sleeping, everything has been now in the bloodstream. Now the detox began. Okay, I wake up by 6 or 7. It's only been about 4 or 5 hours. Detox probably it needs 6 or 7 hours. So now I got a problem. Okay, there's 2 problems. Number one, the detox didn't start at the time they're supposed to. Number 2, okay, these conditions, are putting a break because it's essential to digest first. So it creates inflammation. Okay, so I'm sleeping. So what happened with inflammation? It's the balance of life, internal and biological and physiological, has been whole. Okay, and it's going to be stress. Physiological stress while you're eating. So now the levels of cortisol are going to increase at nighttime, and then inflammation goes. This is going to go through the bloodstream to the brain, and it will also knock the sleeping pattern. It will also affect the quality of sleep. It will also affect some other brain activity that includes cleaning the garbage, and organizing memory, and putting out the circuitry connected through the things that happened in the previous day to the information of the past, and aligning, the projection of the future, my goals, my aspirations. So everything is turned up. So, and of course, I don't even know why I feel so tired in the morning when I wake up, and it takes me a long time. But it's this process of affecting this metabolic clock through this bad habit of eating late. So eat on time, don't skip any meal. If I wake up at 6, I will have breakfast by 7:30, and then I will have a snack by 10 o'clock. It could be a smoothie or it could be a fruit. Then I will have my lunch around 12:30, maybe 1 latest. Then I have another snack by maybe 3 o'clock, and my dinner by 6:30, maybe 7 if I'm in traffic. So, and after that, avoiding eating, unless, I want something very light, because, I don't know, I use a lot of energy, but, or maybe I have a celebration. No, just do anything light. If you break this pattern of eating, because you have a party and you're eating late, it's okay. No, just understand there's going to be inflammation, and you're going to have to do something the next day to correct it. No, if it happens once in a while, it's okay. But if it happens every week and every day, that's a serious problem. That is going to have consequences on the brain, the way how hormones are made. Okay. The other part is what you eat. So, and this is going to be a brief, because everybody now has been well understanding this nutrition thing. We need carbs, we need good fats, we need proteins. The protein source could be beans, lentils, garbanzo beans. Could it be meat that comes from chicken, turkey, beef? Uh, these things, has an effect too. So you have to be sure the source of the meat, because if those animals are being raised with a lot of hormones, because that's what they do. If it's not organic or raised with a lot of antibiotics, that's what they do. They put a lot of antibiotics to keep the animal growing faster and fill them up with inflammation. The reason why you see this proposition of giving antibiotics is not to keep them away from bacteria or infection. That's not what they do, antibiotics, when they put it in the food of the animals. It is to make them grow bigger. So it's inflammation, what's happening, because the antibiotics eventually produce inflammation, when it's used like what they do with the animals. Hormones that they give is for growth. And these hormones, when they're going to be residue in the meat you eat, and it's going to be residue in the egg you eat, it'll be residue and whatever is on the meat of the animal. So when it comes inside your body, it's going to produce inflammation. Okay? Because, and also the other risk is can produce a lot of estrogen, which is not good, because that can conduct to more inflammation and eventually, for some people, potentially, activate some mutations for cancer. So not good to do that. So if you want to eat meat, be sure that you have organic meat, organic eggs. Okay, that's important. A lot of veggies. Every main meal put a color veggies of every kind, because we need folates. Folates is specific chemicals that activate, and initiate what is called methylation, in the brain, okay, in any other part of the body. So this is important, because this chemical that's in the folates, that's on all greens in bright color, vegetables, including the only vegetable that is not green or has any bright color is cauliflower, which is the only vegetable that has a lot of these different micronutrients, so that is considered to be green. Be sure that you have in breakfast a little bit of that combination of some greens and bright colors vegetables. In lunch the same, and in dinner time. Now, if for any reason you can, then make a smoothie with some greens, like a snack, and that will compensate. So you need folate for the brain. The other thing is you need, because we need dopamine. See, dopamine, we talked, I think, about it session before. We did that, or we haven't done that yet?
I don't know if we've done that yet.
Okay, dopamine and serotonin. But dopamine is a neurotransmitter that actually it has so many functions. It helps you when it's present in balance. It creates motivation. So what dopamine does is when you are exposed to the external world, okay, you can be stimulated by your experience to get what is not in you yet. For example, I see my friend, Ulysses, my friend, he's going to college, or he is having a business, or he owns a car. I see him with a car. So that produces a stimulus. So then my brain, okay, produces a level of energy that is created by dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that it helps me to create the energy so I can plan, and say, wow, that's a nice car. Okay, let's say I don't have a car. And I talk to Ulysses, and oh my goodness, how you like the car? And he said, this is great. I can go to work, I take my wife to school and whatever, I take the kids to the park and go, and I don't have a problem. So now I want that. Okay? And that is nothing bad. Okay? Because I want dopamine, and then if, okay, unless there's envy, no, and I got some issues, no, that are mental issues. No, I coveting and having envy, and I'm having some other issues. Then normally this process, it will help me to formulate a plan to get a car. And then I ask Ulysses, say, how much it costs you? He say, I put $500, I paid $280. Wow, how'd you do that? And he tell me, there is this bank that does this, and I found this dealer. So these questions that comes along, it is the part of the planning part. And dopamine, is the chemical that helps me to kind of look forward to get something from the outside. So, and eventually, if these levels are right, I buy a car. Maybe in 3 months, in 6 months, in 1 year. If my credit is bad, then I work for it. Or maybe I talk to Uncle Larry and I say, Uncle Larry, I'm married, go to school, I need a car, can you sign for me? And I convince Uncle Larry. This is part of the dopamine, thing. But dopamine is a chemical that it has so many functions. Okay, it not only creates me motivation to acquire things that are outside for me. Okay, and then I create my own life and I create my own future and I project my own future. So when the levels of dopamine are low, okay, that's when we have no motivation. We feel bored. There is depression, there is anxiety. Okay, these components, of our life, it is because there is a low level of dopamine. And there's 2 ways how I can lower my level of dopamine. One is if I envious, okay, and I entertain thoughts. After I talk to Ulysses, I see his car, it's nice, but I think he doesn't deserve it. No, I start entertaining things in my mind. Or I say, wow, how come he got that nice car and I don't have it? And I started kind of putting myself down. And I start thinking, oh my goodness, so stupid. I missed the boat. Why he got this? I don't have it. Is he better than I am? So these conceptual thoughts that are not objective. This is only subjective because I'm dwelling on things that I just putting a label to. So if that happened, now there is a problem. Okay, there's a problem because I probably gonna have a high level of dopamine too, because now I have a belief that Ulysses is foolish and he doesn't deserve. I'm better because I don't know, my family rich, or I'm came from this country, or I came from this other country, or I speak this language, or I'm white, or this, whatever I believe. So that belief that I have, it can drive me to more dopamine. Okay, but the high risk is there's not going to be a good connection with the frontal cortex. So when I go about shopping for the car, I may shop for the wrong car, I may make the wrong deal, okay, and I probably am not going to make good decisions. So, and let me explain you about this since we're talking about nutrition. So that will hold the production of dopamine. It will maintain the dopamine level high or lower, if I feel I don't deserve. Or if I am jealous, envious, maybe it will give me the kick energy to kind of go after, but at a high price, because I need serotonin too. Okay? So both of these chemicals, dopamine, it made me feel I want the things outside, and serotonin, it made me feel content in the place I am. So these 2 chemicals, they dance with each other, okay, to maintain the level of content. Yes, I want this outside, but I'm okay now. Okay, and the dopamine keep kicking, so I can do this in such a way that I produce enough connection in my mind to make the right decisions. So of course I'm gonna go and move and talk to Ulysses and say, Ulysses, where you bought it, how much you pay, and then I call Uncle Larry and I say, Uncle Larry, you've been buying cars for so long. Tell me about this car. My friend has this, and he might give me advice. And then I talk to my aunt or my sister and I say, hey, you know what, my credit is not good, but I think I can be responsible, and this motivated me to talk to her and take the risk, you know, that she might say no, okay, and then to see if she signed with me to get a car. So, in the decisions that are made, they are made the right way because it's not driven by this contextual labeling things of myself, others, or comparison. And this is what we see. Now, dopamine, it also requires, the make of dopamine requires something that's called some chemical, like tyrosine. Okay, so this is literally tyrosines help to produce dopamine. In dopamine, okay, tyrosine is in turkey, is in chicken, fish, in dairy. Okay, it helps the production of dopamine. Dopamine regulates the reward in the pleasure centers, and this is really an important brain chemical. Okay, because also helps with memory and more skills. And that's why the nutrition is so important. That we have the right nutrition, and now what dopamine does, once when it's made, dopamine produces epinephrine. Okay, epinephrine is what kicks. Okay, the motivation, energy in the brain is different than the adrenaline. It looks like adrenaline, but it's a little different. It's energy made by the brain. So the epinephrine is critical, okay, to pursue things because it gives me the energy to move forward, to go and talk to Ulysses and ask him, or talk to my Uncle Larry, or talk to my sister, and it makes me go to the computer and do research. So, and I click, I use my hands. So this is dopamine, sending signals, to the motor cortex to actually send signals. Dopamine, kind of help with all that. So nutrition is critical, dopamine is important. Serotonin, in the same token, okay, is a chemical that's made with nutrition. So I would recommend to be sure this L-tyrosine, you use it. Don't try to buy or consume any chemical that's supplemental, that's similar to the chemical your brain produces, because it's not help. Okay, because we have to understand that this is very, very complex. Okay, it's not like some people might say, well, where can I get dopamine? No, so in a way I can get the motivation and stay alive and not bored. Well, it's very complex. There is a chemical out there that's used for people that has Parkinson. It's called L-dopa, and it's dopamine. Okay, and it helps to the person, but it produces some secondary effects. So if we're trying to replace any hormone, whether it's dopamine or whether it's another chemical, okay, what we're doing is we're creating some other problems that are serious to the brain, serious to the body. So better is use the components that come through these nutrients. No. And if we need some supplementation, we got to be wise and understand what supplementations, could be good, but don't buy anything like the similar hormone or the similar chemical that produce the brain. Like for example, melatonin, no? It's another hormone that is helping sleeping. Okay, people use melatonin, and of course, eventually they have some problems. Or we can use L-dopa, we're gonna have some problems. No, we can use any chemical we use, any hormone, to replace what naturally our body produces. It can eventually produce some problems. So, anyways, that's today the topic, and I hope everybody can enjoy this because life is beautiful. Remember, dopamine, serotonin, they have to dance together. Okay, and if we entertain thoughts that are detrimental to you or other people, that can put a break into the production of these chemicals, and of course, it can make you or driven to do that will crash you eventually, because you may make the wrong decisions. Or it could, if they're unbalanced, it could make you feel like smart and wise. No, what you want is wise. You want to smart. You want to be able to see with clarity, not just to get there. Because I get the car, I got into a wrong decision with a payment of $600 a month when I only making like 3,000. And you put in a lot of these payments into that, okay? And I have a family that's pretty bad. So, and the other part is that this component of your mind and the focus on your mind, it will actually help to produce both dopamine for motivation to get the things you don't have yet, okay, a better relationship or a new car or the money you need, but at the same time being content where you are. Doesn't mean that you're stuck. You just keep on moving, okay, and enjoying every step of the way, to get what you really want and what you think is good for you.
Thank you, Dad. And this was chock full of information today. So definitely highly encourage you guys to rewatch this, re-listen to this, because so much good information. So thank you, Dad, again for sharing all this.